Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show where we think, act, and prosper. This channel focuses on changing financial trajectories and building legacies, and you do not want to miss this topic that we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to do a quick reaction to Lynn Alden's recent interview with Natalie Brunell. They have both been on my channel. I'm very grateful for them, and Lynn Alden shares some very important insights in regarding the Social Security situation. So I'm going to go ahead and kick the intro, and then let's get into this because this is a serious topic. And I think that we all need to be paying attention to and preparing for our own financial future and not putting it in the hands of the government. So let's get to it.
Think. Act. And prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Alrighty. We are back. I'm going to go ahead and share screen, and we're going to jump over into this video, this interview with Lynn Alden. I know that some of you may not have the time to watch a lot of these interviews, but I do. And so I like to be able to pick certain things out so that you all can see what I'm watching and what I'm thinking about as I create content and educational content for you all. So this is where Lynn Alden talks about what's happening with government spending and deficits, and so we're going to dive into this and discuss how Social Security will look moving forward with most of the baby boomer generation coming of retirement age. And so let's go ahead and full screen this and let's get to it.
You know, one thing that's surprising is just the fact that fiscal deficits are going up so much when we're out of the pandemic and we no longer have all of those programs. We don't have the CARES Act in play anymore, the PPE, the ERC credit expired. So you would think that on the fiscal side, actually spending would be going down, and it should be. But instead, they are pumping that side where they continue to sort of restrict the monetary stimulus. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, and part of why I was, not expecting them to be able to raise rates more than 3% is because the amount that blows out the fiscal deficit is kind of unfathomable. And yet they did it anyway. And the effects are, at first it feels good because deficits feel good on the economy while it's happening, but then more and more people are kind of looking at this debt and deficit situation and realizing that
Deficits feel good on the economy while it is happening. That is an important piece because government is obviously overspending. We're in a lot of debt, and it feels good on the economy while it's happening. But there's also a lot of unintended consequences that happen when these deficits continue to increase. And so let's get back to it.
it's increasingly kind of unsustainable. And so that has been, kind of a huge factor. And so another thing is that one of the key things that got me into macro, I used to be more focused on equity investing. And back in 2016, 2017, I wanted to start focusing more on macro. And it was because we had an unusual divergence between the deficit and the economy. So if you look back in modern history, normally, the deficit's smaller during a strong economy, and it's weaker during a recession. But we started to get this divergence in 2016, 2017, where the deficit was actually getting worse while the economy was still strengthening. And the reason was a couple reasons, but a key one was the baby boomers were kind of reaching their peak retirement years. And so the demographics of the nation were structurally changing for the worse deficit-wise. And so that was a key variable that happened. Then it was amplified by the fact that we had tax cuts that were not funded by spending cuts. And so that added to the deficit. Then, of course.
All right. So what Lynn is saying here is that the baby booming generation reached their peak retirement years, which means that, you have the largest generation coming into retirement. And so they are drawing down a lot of these Social Security reserves or whatnot. And so the more people that are retiring, the more they're going to be pulling on Social Security. And that's a big issue because we have quite a few baby boomers in the United States. My mom is one of them. My father is one of them. They both receive Social Security. I know other people, other baby boomers that receive it. And so they were like one of the largest generations. A lot of people were having a lot of babies back in that time period. And so that's a very important piece. And then she talks about the tax cuts without supplementing that or offsetting that in some type of way. And so we cut taxes. So that means more taxes isn't going to the government to be able to fund these things if government's being responsible with the money, of course. But the tax cuts was not offset by any other type of, cuts that needed to happen or raises in other places, other taxes or whatnot to offset the tax cuts that were implemented. And I believe a lot of that was implemented under Trump's first term. And so that's, I just wanted to explain that piece to you all. Let's get back to it.
COVID blew it out. And then even after that, now what we're getting is the interest expense is blowing it out. In addition to that demographic headwind still being there. And so a stat that I point to is that, for decades, the Social Security fund was increasing. So more money was going into it than was coming out. But, starting a couple of years ago, that began rolling over. And it'll take a while to drain all up until kind of the mid 2030s. But basically, it's the whole demographic situation has shifted. And so that leads to these structurally higher deficits because these programs were not really balanced with that in mind when they were kind of originally set decades ago, and there's been not significant modification since then.
All right. So there we have it. There hasn't been much modification since then. They did not factor in the demographic changes. The balance was increasing significantly for decades, and then now you're seeing that balance roll over as more of the baby boomers are coming into retirement. So we're going to go ahead and jump into a couple of other screens I want to show just to supplement this conversation. The first thing I'm going to show is the national debt clock. And as we can see here, I mean, we're over $34 trillion in debt. And then on top of that, I mean, the largest budget items you have here, Social Security is the second largest budget item at almost 4 trillion. Medicare, Medicaid is at 1.7 trillion. Then you have military, and you have the interest on debt, this is the net. And so at 700 trillion, which is a little bit more than that. So here you have right here unfunded debt / interest. So this is the total amount of interest we've paid on the debt because we borrow at it with the interest rate, usually from we have to raise money, raise bonds, sell treasuries, all these different things, right? And we have to pay back interest. So we borrow money. And with the Fed raising interest rates to 5%, 5.5%, that means that the government's having to pay more in interest on their debt. So here you have the total U.S. debt. These are unfunded liabilities, almost at $100 trillion. So this is very concerning, especially moving forward. And we're going to discuss more of why this is concerning. So I'm going to pop over here to this article from CNBC. This came out last year in July 30th. Will Social Security run out of money? Here's what could happen to your benefits if Congress doesn't act. And this goes back to what Lynn Alden was saying, is that it's been a while since they even acted on this particular subject. And so a recent report found that starting in 2034, retirees will only receive part of their benefits. So for millions of retirees, Social Security provides an essential source of income and retirement. In 2020, around 50 million retired workers collected Social Security benefits. However, in recent 2022 Social Security trustees report finds that in 2034, retirees will start receiving a reduced benefit if Congress doesn't fix funding issues for the social program. Now, how are they going to fix funding issues for these social programs? I mean, obviously they have to reduce the amount of debt. They have to balance the budget, right? And they may have to increase taxes to be able to fund this program. So pretty much we're going to have to pay for people to receive Social Security. And I mean, people have been paying into this their whole lives. I mean, I currently pay into it. I'm sure anyone else that lives in America that works or receives some type of income has to pay into it. And so right now it's saying like in 10 years from now, retirees will only receive 77% of their full benefit, which is not good. I mean, that's a 23% cut from current what people are currently receiving. And so and then you see here, no major Social Security legislation has been passed at all since the early 1980s. All right, so legislation will eventually come regarding this issue, and we may see some higher taxes or whatnot, but the government is, however it plays out, the government is going to have to fund this because there's going to be major issues, or the deficit is going to continue to balloon and continue to go a lot higher. Drop down in the comment section below. What do you think is going to happen? And so here it just talks about how Social Security is funded. And so pretty much, I mean, it talks about the payroll tax rate at 6.2%. If you're self-employed, you pay a tax rate of 12.4% because your employer isn't paying that half of the tax, right? And so, and then it says in 2022, for every dollar you pay Social Security in payroll tax, 85 cents goes towards Social Security fund that pays monthly benefits to current retirees and their families and surviving family members of workers who have died. The other 15 cents goes into a trust fund that pays benefits to people with disabilities in their families. So that is how it is broken down according to CNBC. And so we're going to go ahead and jump over to Investopedia, as this channel focuses a lot on investing and financial freedom. So Investopedia is always a great source for education. It says, will baby boomers bankrupt Social Security? Let's see. It says the outsized baby boomer generation, named for the big increase in birth rates after World War II, has always made waves. The generation's retirement years will be no different. Born between 1946 and 1964, this vast cohort came of age in the 1960s and 70s and began to qualify for Social Security benefits in 2008. By 2031, the youngest baby boomers will have passed Social Security's full retirement age of 67 for people born in 1960 or later. So obviously the age is at 67 now. I mean, if the funding continues to have issues later on this decade, they may even push that age up, right? To just delay people getting paid their full retirement benefit. By then, there will be 75 million Americans over the age of 65. That is up from 39 million in 2008. And so the generation size matter less. So the size of the generation matters less than the life expectancy, because life expectancies are increasing. We have increased, our medical technology, science has increased a lot. So people are living longer. And so in 1935, it says that people age 65 could expect to live an additional 12.5 years. Currently, women age 65 can expect to live another 21.1 years, and men an additional 18.6 years. All right. And then we get here to the facts. At the end of 2022, Social Security benefits to retirees, families, and disabled workers had approximately 2.7 trillion in accumulated reserves. There were two funds, the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund and the Federal Disability Insurance Trust Fund, and both grouped together. The funds receive Social Security payroll taxes assessed at a 12.4 rate. And then, so we kind of breezed over that earlier. And so the main fund is expected to be depleted. I'm getting some different dates here. I mean, the recent article we just looked at, CNBC, says 2034. This one specifically says that the OASI trust fund exhausts its reserves in 2033. At that point, ongoing payroll tax receipts are expected to cover 77% of scheduled benefits. So that's the decrease from the 23% decrease of what they will be receiving today versus what people on Social Security would be receiving later, based on the trust fund being depleted. On the other hand, the disability trust fund, which pays disability benefits, is now projected to have sufficient reserves until at least 2097. Disability claims have declined in recent years, a trend that has continued and forced the trustees to revise their projections. Talks about demographics. Lynn Alden mentioned changing demographics that Congress did not factor in. It says the ratio of Social Security beneficiaries to workers who pay into the system is shifting from 2.7 workers for each beneficiary in 2023 to a projected 2.3 in 2035. Social Security taxes accounted for over 90% of the trust fund's income in 2022. So it's showing that currently there's 2.7 workers for each beneficiary of Social Security, and that was last year, 2023, and that's going to change to only being 2.3 workers for every beneficiary. So that's a reduction in the amount of workers that it will take to that's a reduction in the amount of workers that would be able to contribute to a beneficiary's Social Security fund. And so it says the remainder of the system's funding came from interest earnings and receipts from the income tax on Social Security benefits. So as we can see, this is a major issue, right? I mean, we can go to socialsecurity.gov. I mean, it talks about here. It says, as a result of changes to the Social Security enacted in 1983, it's been decades since they've touched this. Benefits are now expected to be payable on in full on a timely basis until 2037. Recently, obviously, the other articles that we looked at said 2023 and 2033 and 2034. But as you can see, this article was written in 2010. So this article obviously has to be adjusted, and there has to be new information to come out because they didn't get the numbers right. So this is very, very concerning for many of us. And it really just highlights the reason why we need to take our own financial future in our own hands. And that means you have to increase your income. I mean, having your money work for you, whether that's earning interest on some type of investment, whether that's having investment accounts or stocks or dividend paying stocks or real estate or owning a business that can generate income for you. And you have to be able to have your money work for you so that it frees up time, because there are many people that I know, at least, that are able to be have the freedom to do what they want to do because their money's working for them. Many people that own rental properties and they're receiving rental income, and as a result, they're able to travel and do the things that they want. Obviously, investors, we had Rick Rule on just the other day talking about this. And so there's a lot of things that you can do to increase your income. And then obviously you want to ensure your wealth by holding gold, and I will argue Bitcoin as well. But I'm mostly a gold bug. So I hope that this was helpful. Be sure to drop your comments down below on how you think this plays out, and how are you going to hedge and protect yourself from the risk of not receiving Social Security benefits when you reach the age of retirement, Lord willing, and everything. So drop your comments and your thoughts below. Love to hear from you, and you all have a blessed day. And